Hello and welcome back to Falamoran Radio. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about 2025 wrapped and setting goals for 2026. Have you ever felt like, I didn't really achieve what I set out to do this past year? Or maybe you've thought to yourself, besides, oh yeah, my fuel is low. Maybe you've thought to yourself, oh, well, because I didn't achieve this, none of it really counts. None of what I've done this year really counts. If you have ever thought those things or felt those things, this episode is for you. So I was on a mentorship call the other day, and it was a very interesting call because my mentor, who I've had for quite some time now, asked the question of, what have you done in the last 9 years? Because in 2025, we're in a 9 year right now. 2 plus 2 plus 5 is 9. So in numerology, a 9 year is a completion year. It's a shedding year. It's a wrapping year. Put a bow on it, start something new. And so if we really go back 9 years, it's 2016. That takes us to 2016. So what were you doing for the last 9 years? What's the cycle that you've gone through in the last 9 years? And I want you to sit with that question. I want you to answer it. And whether you put it in a journal, put it on a piece of paper, you say it to yourself quietly, whatever the first answer is the one that I want for you to really sit with. Because that first answer that pops up, that's your subconscious mind talking to you and answering the question for you. So in the last 9 years for myself, I really had to think. And not really had to think, but I really had quite a profound moment when I was considering what's happened in the last 9 year cycle for me. And the last 9 year cycle, life is really lifed. I'm sure if some of you have been listening to the podcast from the beginning, you know my daughter had cancer last year at 2 years old, and she has been in complete remission for exactly 1 year, and she kicked cancer's butt. So in the last 9 years, when I think back to 2016, I was really looking at what I've had to walk through and what I've gone through. And in 2016, I moved from New Jersey, my home state, my hometown, out to Denver, Colorado. My intention was to go out to California, but I got stuck in Vail because of a snowstorm. Seems cliche, but it's not. I promise. The Rockies are super snowy. And I wound up turning around and going back to Denver. And I lived in Denver for about a year before I decided I want to move to Europe. In 2018, I moved across the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, to Prague in the Czech Republic. I lived in Europe. I traveled Europe for about a year. And then I came back home. And I vividly remember sitting at my mom's kitchen table, looking out the window in the pine tree in the middle of her townhouse complex. And I was like, what do I love? What can I go back to that I love? And the answer for me was rowing. I've always loved rowing. When I started in 2013, I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I needed in my life at the time. And so I decided to get back into rowing. And at the same time that I got back into rowing, I also dove into coaching. I became a crew coach for a local high school. And I also, at the same time, became the club administrator for the nonprofit rowing organization that I was rowing for. In 2019, I won a Masters National Championship. And then in 2020, it was a pandemic. Everything started to transition online. And in 2020, I also started deciding to invest in learning how to create a business online, learning how to make even an in-person business start to take off. And in 2021, I went out to a retreat for the business. We made our first back-to-back 10K months in business. And then we found out we were pregnant with Penelope. In 2022, I was still coaching, although it was a little different. I had to wait until after Penelope was born. But Penelope was born in July, and then I returned to coaching in August. And then I coached all the way through 2023, which was a big year because I paid off a lot of debt. I paid off a lot of my high consumer credit card debt, over $25,000. And then I made the decision to A, take an NLP practitioner certification, B, also start going to more business retreats. I went to a business retreat in December of 2023. And then C, that no matter what, I was going to do anything to figure out how to make my online business work because my daughter had a seizure October 5th, 2023. So 2023 was a big year. And in 2024, there was some good news that I thought was going to transpire. And then we found out we were pregnant with our second Piper. And then Penelope, less than a month later from us finding out we were pregnant, she got diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And then in 2025, Penelope completed her chemotherapy. She got her port taken out. She started school. Her sister was born. We went to the Outer Banks for vacation in a hurricane. We booked our first wedding for our newest business, which is a wedding events planning business. And we started a nonprofit organization. I can't explain to you how many things we've done in just this 1 year alone because it blows my mind when I think about it. However, when I consider the last 9-year cycle that I have walked through, my last 9 years have literally conspired of me looking outside of myself in every way, shape, and form for an answer, when really the answer is within myself the entire time. Whether it's moving out west from my hometown because I'm looking for a place to live, or it's moving to a different country because I'm looking for something more comfortable for myself, or looking for a job to help define what I am worth, or looking for a mentor to help me understand how to make a business work and make money. The answer I kept putting outside of myself, and it was always external to me. Every time I was looking outside of myself. And so when I realized that on that call the other day, it was a really powerful realization because I'm 32. It's not like I'm 42 or 52. I'm 32. And to have that realization at 32, it's pretty young. And it's pretty powerful realization to know that you have all of it within you. You have all of that power. I have all of that power. You are the creator, and whatever you want to do is within you. It's not external to you. So it's a really powerful 9-year cycle. And so going into 2026, I never really thought about it. I always usually pick a word for the year. And so before I even had to answer that question, my word that I decided to pick was strategy. Now, oftentimes when we pick something, we experience the opposite of that word. So in 2024, just to give you an example, the word that I picked was expansion. And what did I feel? A shitload of contraction. So when I picked my word for 2026, which is strategy, I think to myself and I feel for myself that I am going to more than likely run into a lot of scenarios and instances where I am going to be experiencing more energetic work for myself, not necessarily strategy work. So it's really important to consider this last 9-year cycle because whether or not you know it, your subconscious is influencing what's going to happen in the future. And your subconscious is keeping the score and it knows exactly what has happened. And until you take the time to sit back and ask the question, you're never going to really realize it. You're never going to truly be like, oh, wow, because you're not consciously aware of it. You're subconsciously aware of it. And when you take the time and you take the actual daytime to sit back with it and to recognize it and realize it, then you can have so much more conscious awareness built up around it to support you in what you're going to do moving forward. So considering 2026, I want you to think of a couple of things. What is it that you are truly looking to feel when it comes to whatever the big outcome is that you're looking to achieve for this year? And not only what does it feel like, what does it also look like? And the reason why these two questions are super powerful is because in 2024, when I decided to make my goals for 2025, one of them was to figure out how to work from home come hell or high water. Number two was to take care of my health and my kids' health and my family's health. And in 2025, my daughter has been in complete remission for the whole year. Her report came out. She has had, a couple viruses that are really just colds here and there. My other daughter, Piper, has been completely healthy, minus a couple of colds that Penelope brings in from school. And Tommy and I decided to get back into rowing. We're competing and we're taking care of our physical health again. And whether you realize it or not, mental health and your well-being in your mind starts with your physical health. So 2 of the 3 goals that I had set for myself had actually come to fruition. And it was because I asked myself those 2 supporting questions of, what does this outcome look like? And what does this outcome feel like? Now, the third one was to increase the amount of experiences our family had. And whether I realize it or not, I think that we've had plenty of experiences this last year between getting out of cancer treatment, having another baby, going to vacation in a hurricane, starting a nonprofit, starting another different in-person business, having all of the digital stuff that I also still do on the side for myself that I am also in 2026 planning on bringing more front and center. And then we've also done so much more in terms of how we're being able to give back and provide for others. We had our first wedding. We ran a couple of other events for the nonprofit this past year. I went to Canada and I got my master NLP practitioner. So none of these things would have actually come to fruition if I didn't take the time to really sit with what did I believe or think that they look like, and what did I feel that they felt like. And so going into 2026, I again have 3 goals that I'd like to, fulfill for myself. The one still has to do with my health and my family's health. And a lot of that looks like racing still for me. I have one race in particular that I plan on getting a medal for. A lot of that also looks like making sure that the kids are okay with their appointments, they're being taken care of. It also looks like eating more home-cooked meals, eating less processed foods, and going to more farmers market where we know we can get the actual food from the ground instead of God knows what's injected into our food. The second goal that I have has to do with my business. I want to do anything that I possibly can, come hell or high water, to get my business to absolutely make a full-time income. Whether it's online, whether it's my wedding events planning business, that is my second priority. Now, when I think of what that actually looks like, it looks like selling digital products and courses. And so being able to do that is what I'm going to focus on in 2026 and marketing my digital products and courses. Maybe I'll turn them into a membership so that it's recurring revenue. Whatever the model is, it's not necessarily the most important thing. The most important thing is that I get the material out there and I just do it. And I talk about it and I say, hey, be sure to come join your Expression Era because it's going to be launching February 9th, 2026. Then my third outcome has to do, again, with experiences. And this experience has more to do with our home in 2026. I want to get us a good place to live, a good town with a good education system, good people, great support. And I also want to learn about real estate in 2026. And so that's what that looks like for each of those 3 outcomes. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on doing and making sure that the visuals look like. when I go into 2026. Now, the feelings, that's also very important too, because that's going to be the foundation of how you build all of these goals for yourself. So when you think of what you're looking for 2026 to do, to accomplish, to be, I want you to consider those other two supporting questions. What does it look like and what does it feel like? Because those two questions by far are the most important, especially in terms of making sure they come to fruition. If you have been tuning into this podcast frequently, I would love if you could drop a rating and review. That would really help in terms of the ranking of the podcast and getting it out to new listeners. And if you are new, welcome. I am so excited that you've tuned in, especially at this point in the year, because this is a big point in the year. It's a wrapping up of 2025 and then the ensuing walking into a new year, 2026. So I'm very excited. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your patience. Also, some of the episodes this year I have not been able to keep quite as consistent of a schedule just due to the nature of our schedule this year. So I want to thank you for your patience and for still being loyal listeners and tuning in. And I'll talk to you soon.